So I would imagine you're here because you're interested in hare scrambles, or perhaps you just want to see someone else's perspective on hare scramble racing. Now, I'm not saying this is the right way to do things, and I'm definitely not saying this is the wrong way to do things. This is just the way I do things, and after 11 races, it's what works for me. I will walk through the basics of what I feel is important and a whole race, including the days leading up to it. I just completed my first year of racing hare scrambles. Back around 2005 to 2010, I raced ATV motocross and I also ventured into a few dirt bike motocross races, so it's not exactly my first time with something of this nature. I just fell out of the scene as ATV MX was dwindling and I found myself riding dual sport for the next 10 plus years. I never had an interest in hare scrambles because it always seemed anytime I heard the word hare scramble, the word injured was always in the same sentence, but I like racing. Even before I began racing my dual sport this year, the general consensus around me told me it was all but just short of a dumb idea, as I would tear up my bike and perhaps myself. Good news is, those notions were wrong. The only time I even get a hint of nervousness is on the start line, but I understand that's pretty standard procedure, even with the pros. Good news is, you don't have to be nervous there either if you don't want to. Just take off solo and be the last to enter the woods. You'll be fine. Get a feel for it if it's your first race and you don't want to go for the whole shot. Let's go ahead and hop into my bikes and setup. Keep in mind I did my first 2 races with my dual sport, then I got a dedicated race bike, my Husqvarna TX300. I got my 2-stroke and my 4-stroke dual sport here. If you're thinking about racing a dual sport, you might hear things like, isn't it heavy? Aren't you worried you're going to break your turn signals off? Well, I can tell you from my entry level perspective, they both do just fine. The only 3 downsides for me really racing my dual sport are that the handlebars feel a little bit cluttered. I removed my rear view mirrors, but the handlebars are still definitely feel a little bit cluttered. My suspension is a little stiff. That might be able to be changed, but I don't really play with my suspension enough. And the third thing that I don't really like about the dual sport is, or what makes me prefer my 2-stroke over it, is my 2-stroke gets off the line a lot faster than my 4-stroke. And if it's a dusty day, you want to be one of the first people in that whole shot. Other than that, it does just great. The headlight, even your race bike will have headlights, but I have busted the headlight back here, and it's glued. It's glued with some plastic epoxy. But other than that, just race what you're comfortable with. Have a bike that you're comfortable riding. So now I'm going to go over my 2-stroke and some of the things I've done to make it more hare scramble worthy and safe, and help me enjoy some of my favorite riding areas. We're going to work from front to back. I have the cycler handguards here. They're really strong and they work really well with the bends of a handlebar. Fitment's great. There's some people that don't use wraparound handguards. But with how many trees we're weaving past, I just feel a little bit safer, and my fingers feel a little bit safer if I got a piece of metal wrapped around, keeping my hand safe. Moving on to the stopwatch here. I run a stopwatch so that I can start at the start of a race and I kind of know what kind of pace I'm setting. I also know when I'm coming in on my laps, if I'm going to be doing another lap, or if that's going to be my last lap. It kind of helps me set my own pace, know if I'm going to ride at 100% or if I'm going to ride at 90 for that last mile or two. You can't just buy any old stopwatch because not all stopwatches are going to count over an hour. Keep in mind your races are generally going to be about an hour and 20 minutes, but read your rule book before you start. But not all stopwatches count over an hour. I'm going to link in the video and in the description this stopwatch here. This is a 24-hour stopwatch, so the stopwatch will run for a full 24 hours. When I originally bought a stopwatch, I only went to an hour, and I didn't realize that until I was in the race. So moving on, a lot of people run pipe guards. I haven't ran a pipe guard on this bike, and I don't ever intend to. It's a real point of discussion, but I don't run a pipe guard because it reinforces my whole pipe, and if I slam it into a rock, all that pressure is going to be put into my cylinder flange, and I could potentially break a cylinder flange. So I would rather have a pipe dented in a race, or my pipe dented in general, than to destroy my cylinder. You could really go either way, but that's the route I've taken, is to not run a pipe guard for that reason. I do run a pipe guard on my 4-stroke to keep my pipe from burning a hole in my clothes, but two different issues there. On my race bike, I also run a skid plate. You gotta have a skid plate. So many rocks and stuff, trees you're running over. It's also got a linkage guard there. Supposedly it helps you slide over trees easier, but I really like that it keeps my linkage protected and my linkage bearings protected from dirt and debris. We're gonna shift back here to my pipe. I run a FMF turbine core so that when I'm riding at places like St. Joe, I have a US Forest Service approved spark arrestor. And I've ran this for the whole life of this bike. I've been on start lines with close to 25 people, and this bike's pulled hole shots, so I don't see that the turbine core is really limiting it in any way that matters to me. So yeah, if you're running in a place where it requires a spark arrestor, this is a great option. This was actually the really only good option I could find for my 2-stroke. And last but not least, I have a rear disc guard. I don't run a disc guard on the front of the bike because I can manipulate where that front is tracking. Plus, that's a lot of unsprung weight on the front. If you run a huge heavy piece of aluminum, that's gonna kind of diminish your suspension performance, I feel. So I don't run a front disc guard because I can control that a little bit better than I can my rear. My rear just kind of goes wherever it wants to go. but yeah, I run a rear disc guard, and that rounds off, everything I've done for this bike to make it comfortable for me in a Harescramble. Okay, we've got my riding gear here, and we're just going to work from the feet up. Starting here with the obvious, we got the boots. You're going to provide ankle support, foot protection. You're going to be racing through the woods, past trees and rocks. You're going to be kicking trees occasionally, hopefully not very often. Heck, your bike might even fall on your ankle. So good ankle support and protection is a must. Working our way up. Now this is something that I haven't had on for like probably my first 10 races this year. And then I decided to ask in a Facebook group. I said, hey, I'm getting bruises on my knees from slapping my tank. What do you guys do to avoid this? And lo and behold, I guess like 90% of people wear knee pads. I just never knew because they're always covered up by pants. So I did some research and I sought out the best rated knee pads I could find. Seemed like everyone was getting these EVS TP 199s. I slipped them on with, just my standard boxers. So the knee pads were strapped to my skin, and I could not bear to have them on for, more than 30 minutes. It was just so annoying, scratching up the back of my knee. I didn't know if I was going to be able to wear knee pads. So after some research and talking to some people, I finally found a solution. And I have like compression. I have 3/4 length compression pants that people wear in like summer. And my knee pads now ride on the compression pant. And I can't even tell they're there now. 3.5 hour race I had recently, I couldn't even tell they were there. So the solution for me in knee pads is a good compression pant. Moving on to standard riding pants. They're nice, airy, and breathable, offer some good knee protection. We have an FXR jersey. Again, nice, airy, and breathable. Not a whole lot of protection, but just nice, airy, and breathable. But for the protection on the torso, I have a Liette impact rated chest protector. As you're going through the woods, there's going to be tree stumps, tree stubs, rocks. There's going to be broken off tree branches, things to joust you. It's just important to protect your torso from any puncture wounds that could threaten you out on the trail. And I can't even tell this Liette chest protector's on there. As you can see, it's got these flaps on the side, so I got some side protection there too. Yeah. FXR gloves. I actually started racing my first couple races with mechanics gloves, and the fact that they ride so loose on my hand started giving me big blisters. And I heard from a friend, hey, it's because they're not tight enough. You need riding gloves. So I got riding gloves. I got these FXR riding gloves here. They fit great and offer good protection if you have like a get off, slide your glove along the ground a little bit better than your bare palm. But yeah, you need a good pair of riding gloves. And last of all, this is one of my more recent additions. I have a FXR 6D helmet. I bought a 6D helmet. I recently had a slow get off in a race, but I guess I hit my head just right on the bare ground. I was like, oh my gosh, I have a concussion. But I got up and just kept going. I never stopped. That's my motivation, or that's my spirit. And the feeling of like a head injury dissipated. So I obviously didn't have a concussion, but I thought to myself, as soon as I get off this track, I'm getting a better helmet. So I'm not sure how many people are like me, but I always put all my money in like boots. Always got to have the sweet boots. I got like a budget helmet, decent, not the best. But after that last get off, I decided to get a nice helmet. I figure I can survive with a broken ankle. You can chop me off at the knee and I can live. But if my head don't make it through a race, it's going to be a bad time. So I decided from that instance, I need to start putting more money into head protection, because that's really how you continue living. And last of all, I have these Armega goggles from 100%. Once I got them, I don't want to wear anything else. They have like a hard polycarbonate lens or quick change. I don't know if I could ever go back to a standard motocross goggle now. I love them. Whoa, so you might be asking yourself, where's your hydration pack? Well, I don't use a hydration pack. I tried it for the first couple races, but I'm somebody that will stop walking down a hallway to take a drink from a can of soda, so I'm not going to be drinking from a hydration pack racing down a trail. And I don't really have problems with dehydration or anything, so that's just the route I've taken. Let's go ahead and jump into some race recon. So now we are getting into why I even do action camera videos in the first place. When I started racing Harescrambles, I didn't know anybody in the Missouri Harescramble scene. I got all of my information from reading the rule books and watching YouTube videos. I never really had the need for an action camera, and I even told myself I'm never getting an action camera because I was always able to find prior year's race footage on YouTube, and why would I need to do it if everyone else is doing it? Then there was one race that I came across that I had trouble finding anything that really told me about the terrain or what that particular race was like, so I was like, okay, that's my angle. And I bought a DJI Action 4, and it's been fantastic. I've made it my mission to post at least a full uncut lap of each race to help others that look for the same content I was looking for. With that said, we'll jump over here to the Hillbilly GP. The next one's at Peace Valley, and I've already watched the footage. The footage tells me I'm not doing a practice lap. I've done about 11 races so far and done 2 practice laps, one by choice and one because I didn't know any better. The one where I didn't know any better was at Americus. This was my first race ever. Yeah, check out this video here from Dirt Bike Dylan. The video title says it all. I got my bike out and did a practice lap. That practice lap at Americus was mud-filled and took me like an hour and 10 minutes. My bike was covered in mud and I was scraping it off with my hand. Then my race lap took even longer. So that race set the tone for my thoughts on practice laps. I'm not going to waste my energy if I don't have to. The one practice lap I did by choice was at Lou's place. And I did that practice lap because I saw on prior year's YouTube videos that they always do that Rocky Creek bed. And it's not often you get to blast across a Rocky Creek bed, so I wanted to make sure I was doing it right. Plus each lap was only 5 to 6 miles, so it wasn't too bad. Just keep that in mind if you're a new racer. You might think you ride all day like I did. I ride dual sports all day long. So what's a 30-minute practice lap? Well, a 30-minute practice lap on a Harescramble is way different than taking your dual sport down an old ATV trail. You're going to lose a lot more energy, but do what you will. Just give it a try. Give it a shot once and see what you think. That's just my thoughts on the subject, though. T-minus 7 days, Sunday evening here. Going to give the bike a little wash. Look everything over, make sure it's in tip-top shape for the next race weekend. I found a little ding on my front rim from running my air pressure a little too low, so I'm going to straighten that out. Check my spoke tension. Then I'm going to clean the dust seals on my fork. Oh look, T-minus 5 days, and I got the wise idea to cut down my bars after all this time. When I started, I used to blaze through the trails like a game of Plinko, deflecting off everything, but I haven't bumped into much stuff lately anymore. I figure though, everyone cuts them down a little, and it seems my handguards add a ½ inch to each side, so I cut off a ½ inch each side to bring it back to a total 32-inch width. T-minus 4 days, I'm taking the bike out for a little test ride here to check out the new bar whip. I can only see positives right now, but we'll see how the race goes. And I'm also warming the bike up for a little gearbox oil change. Got about 10 hours on this current oil. While the oil drains, I'm going to go ahead and change out my air filter to ensure I have a fresh air filter for the race. Okay, so my inexperience is showing here. I have always used aerosol filter oil, and it's always done a great job in the past. Harescramble is new to me though, and watching dust particles hang in the air for 5 minutes tells me they're pretty fine. My intake needs all the protection it can get. This is Bel-Ray filter oil, non-aerosol, and this is my first bottle of it ever. In the future, I will be pouring it straight from the bottle onto the filter. I didn't realize it was like working with molasses when I came up with the idea for a tub. I also put a super thin layer of grease on the seating surface for the air filter too. We've got the fresh air filter on, the oil drain bolt torqued, oil added, oil level checked. We're going to put the skid plate on and move on. T-minus 1 day, and I see this is going to be my coldest race yet at approximately 37 degrees Fahrenheit. I decided to head to the store to get something ever so slightly warmer than my summertime compression shirt. I also decided to wear 100% Brisker gloves, but I discovered during the race that I would have been just fine with standard riding gloves at these temps. Now I am going to go over and check the torque of a couple critical bolts to ensure my bike continues moving forward during the race without issue. My wife and kids often like to come to these races and are looking for me each lap on the minute, so I'm not going to worry them or waste away the race because I failed to ensure a bolt was properly torqued. Of course, I didn't check them all though, and things can happen. I've now loaded up the bike and dropped the trailer in the garage for security measures. I used a 2x4 between the tire and front fender to keep the load off the fork seals. I've snapped those plastic fork braces before, so back to a trusty 2x4 I went. I've also listed the items I don't pack with my apparel bags. I was on the fence for running a hyper lens from 100% or their dual pane vented lens. I ended up running a dual pane vented lens, and I added 2 tear-offs and cut the top off of the tear-offs so that the lens vent was still open. To be honest though, I don't think I've ever actually needed a tear-off in all my races. It is refreshing though to have a clean lens, and it probably adds an element of safety. Here's my apparel bags. Aside from apparel, I also keep an electric inflator, tire gauge, extra spark plug, and toilet paper in this bag. Then I mentally dress myself from feet to head to ensure nothing is missed. You'd be surprised the times people show up to a race and left their helmet at home. I leave all this gear in my house, then verify it once more in the morning when I'm putting it in the car. We have boots, knee pads, pants, jersey, chest protector, gloves, helmet, goggles, and then maybe even throw in an extra set of gear for good measure. You never know if a band could break or something. The compression pants and riding socks I'm wearing as soon as I wake up, so they're not packed. Snacks. Snacks are good primarily for after the race and for the kids and family. Here's these awesome cheap snack sandwiches my wife makes every race, with Hawaiian rolls, lunch meat, and cheese. Good stuff. Then, of course, pack a few extra small snacks. Okay, I woke up at 5:30 a.m. for a 10:20 a.m. race. It's a 2-hour drive. Got everything loaded in the back of the car and the trailer hooked up. Here we are rolling into the venue. Good things to know before you park are where the sign-up booth is, where the porta potties are, and where the start line is. If it wasn't shared online, just ask the official with the clipboard at the gate. And try to triangulate those 3 positions and park equally between all of them. Now that we are parked, I'm going to grab my helmet and go to sign up. The official at the gate said to head towards the red tent. If this is your first race, you'll most likely need a transponder for about $15. At this same time, you can also buy race numbers for your bike if you need them. Here you can see the scanner they'll scan you in with at sign up. Here's my transponder, and they will also give you a jawbone sticker as you can see here. Make sure all of your numbers match what they gave you. I have a banana and a pickle shot here to help try to combat arm pump. I know what I said about practice laps, and I prefer not to do them, but practice laps may be a good way to help combat arm pump to get your heart rate up pre-race, so that the rush doesn't come as such as a shock to your body when the race starts. To be frank, I don't really know the best way to combat arm pump other than riding more, but I can at least keep trying other methods. Although I'm not doing a practice lap, I still always walk the first couple turns, since it's a frenzy. While on foot, I also look for the best starting line choice. Far right will be the fastest because they don't have to slow so much for the turn. It also carries the greatest risk, because anyone to the inside of you could carry too much speed into the corner and cause an incident. I decided to sit somewhere right in the middle of the line. Now I am going to bleed the air out of my forks and check my tire pressure. I prefer to do this as close to the race as possible, as a 10-degree Fahrenheit swing in temperature between arrival and race time could change your tire pressure 1 to 2 psi. Here in these rocky conditions and weighing 200 pounds, I cannot run any lower than 15 psi in the front tire or I'll get rim strikes. I don't know what the limit is for the rear, but I just run my rear tire at 12.5 psi and my front tire at 15 psi. Okay, it's race time. You see me here fumbling around with my stopwatch, can't quite figure out how to get it reset. Oh, I'm panicking. Maybe I should start figuring this out before the race. Got it. Just in time. I'm going to start my bike up here and give it a couple revs. Make sure I got good fuel pressure on the lines to have the quickest start. Not sure if there's any scientific proof to that, but it makes sense in my head. Also, just keep in mind your engine should already be warmed up before this point. That 5 seconds that I took to start my bike, that was not time to warm it up. That was just making sure I had good fuel pressure. I had already started and ran my bike for quite some time, like 5 minutes earlier, so just keep that in mind. You don't want to be starting off on a cold motor. And we're off. That far right, got the whole shot. He was moving pretty quick anyways, so he probably would have got it no matter where he was at. Now there's not a whole lot I'm going through my head right here. That's why I don't talk very much during my videos. I'm just trying to keep the bike up right and just scanning the ground as I go past it, watching the guy in front of me for any pebbles, any bike movement, because sometimes there's little hidden rocks and root stubs that'll throw a bike, and if you have an eye on somebody in front of you, it'll give you a good idea of something that you might not otherwise see. That's also why when people want to pass me, you know, I prefer to follow rather than to be right in front of them. If there's somebody in my same class and we're not in the last few miles of the race, I'll usually just let them go around me, especially if I'm holding them up. Plus, if I can keep up with them and watch the way their tires are tracking, it'll also help me better predict the course that lays ahead. If it's dusty out, I don't prefer to follow though. Just want to put that disclaimer in there. I'm really giving it all I can here, trying to keep up with him. Working my way into some good arm pump that we'll see here pretty soon. Well, I don't like this hill at all. Might not show it in the picture, but I really didn't like the way the rocks were laying here, but I kind of figured it out in the moment. Maybe a practice lap would have helped. Okay, I come up on this here. See all these bikes and people. I really don't know what's going on. Doesn't look like there's anything impeding my progress though. Just moseying my way up this hill here. Like I said earlier, I got some arm pump coming on. There comes a point where you don't feel that you can quite ride safe. So I take a look around and I see a guy in my own race class coming up behind me. I go ahead and let him around. I don't want to keep pushing, trying to, stay ahead and risk crashing because, you can't effectively control your bike because your hands are hurting. So I just let him go around, no challenge or anything there. And like I said, I like to follow, so it's smoothed out a little bit here. A little bit easier to work with smooth ground when you got arm pumps. So he's ahead of me. I can still see him there in the distance. Seeing if his bike bobbles at all, anything crazy. Kind of helps you predict the turns through the trees when you see the bike weaving out ahead of you. So, as bad as it is to get past, it also helped me be able to watch him navigate. Okay, so I'm following here. Oh, I just saw that tire swap out to the right. That's what I'm talking about. That was, I don't even recall. I think it was a root stub or a rock, but it threw his back tire out there pretty good, and I was like, better watch out for that. That's what I mean when it's good to follow sometimes. Here we come up on a log, and I just pop up over it. Oh, I didn't have enough speed. I'm not always the biggest fan of log hops. I usually get over them when I'm not tired, but the more tired my arms are getting stuff, the harder the logs get. And honestly, after that incident, I think that was the last time. If there was an alternate route around a log the rest of this race, I took it. I ain't playing around with no logs. I guess it was really only like 5 or 10 seconds that I got hung up there, but it feels like an eternity. Now I just go so slow through this creek. Loose gravel is something I'm not really too comfortable with. I'm not too sure about mud either. But in the later laps, I pick up a lot of speed on this gravel. It's just about trusting that you're gonna continue tracking the way you want to track. But yeah, this is the first lap. I was just kind of moseying through it. So I start coming down the hill here, and I see a line of traffic stopped there, and I don't really see what I'm gonna do. Oh, thankfully they start moving, because there was really no good alternate line that I could see. Here we go, I'm just letting another guy around here. Woods ain't really a place to battle for position unless you're, within the last few miles of finish, so. I never hold up anyone's race, not even in my own class generally. As I was up here in the top with these trees, I thought I made an excellent choice to cut my bars down. Felt a lot better when things got a little tighter in the woods. Here you can see me waving someone around. Here I am approaching an easy log, but like I said, no more logs for me this race. Taking the easy route around. See a line of people ahead here. And my wraparound handguards also double as small tree plows. So I'm coming up on a rider here. He got stuck on some of the rocks. I'll find an alternate line really quick. Just go around. No, I won't. No, it's all good. I don't worry too much about passing. He gets away from me anyways. So he's just having some bad luck on those rocks. I come up to a hand here across the trail telling me to go to the left. Well, you know what? I want to go to the right, so I just stick with the line and shimmy off to the right. When I hit the roadblock, get into some loose leaves and dirt, let them AT-81s dig in and take me to the top. Coming up this hill here, I kick my shifter down into, I think, first gear. That never happens, but I guess it did here. Now I pull a little tear off here. Surprisingly, my vision got a lot clearer. So, like I said, I didn't need it, but it was definitely refreshing. It seemed to be about every time I came into this hole here, I realized that my gloves might have just been a little much for the temperatures today. I mean, they still work just fine, but I was realizing with the clamminess and sweatiness in my hands, I would have been just fine with standard riding gloves. If you remember me talking about arm pump earlier, it's about this time I realized I don't have any arm pump anymore. I really don't know when it stopped, but it's at this point when I enter the woods on my third lap that I figure out I'm good to go, and I'm gonna give her all she's got. As you know, I talked about my stopwatch. I know this is my last lap, so I just gonna give it all I can. I don't need to leave any in the tank for the fourth lap because there ain't gonna be one. So I'm just trying to weave through the trail as fast as I know here. Oh, I see another bike. Setting a goal. Gonna catch that bike, or darn well gonna try to. Okay, you're going to hear me gripe a little bit here. It's probably because I'm not gripping my clutch lever quite right and causing me to jam my thumb, but we'll go into that later. Now I catch up to this guy. I'm thinking about trying to cut him on the inside before this hill. Thought he might take it wide to get a run, but he takes it tight. I just hang back just in case he gets stuck. Oh, it veers off to the left there. Thanks for keeping the trail open. And I shimmy up the hill there. I come up around this corner, see this. This ain't the best place to get stuck, but I think he probably got out of it just fine. Okay, so the action camera battery is about depleted. If you want to check out the original unmodified version of this race, just go check out my YouTube channel. Look for Hillbilly GP December 2023 at Peace Valley. Always race through till you see the checker flag. Remember where you took your helmet for sign up before the race? Well, within about an hour of completing the race, you can go back up to that sign up booth and typically see the final results. Don't do what I did. I went home after my first race and thought I would see the results that night. It took 3 or 4 days to see the results online. So if you're interested in how you stacked up, stick around and head back up to that booth to see the final results. Let's take a look at some of my mistakes that maybe you can avoid. I just started doing this within the last month or two, but I used to use way more than 1 or 2 fingers to pull in the clutch, and I started to realize the issue with it because I would hit a bump and my whole hand would come off the bars and jam back down on my thumb. This was because I didn't have a good enough grip on my handlebars. I still struggle a bit with this because when I get tired in races, I will end up using more than a single finger for the clutch still. I'm working on it though. Most of my crashes, I believe, come from the overuse of my front brake. I mean, in panic situations, it's easier for me to find the front brake than my rear brake. Avoid looking back, because if you're looking back, you ain't looking ahead, and that's another way to have an accident. I still struggle with this one sometimes, but I'm improving. Better rear brake control would help me in a lot of places. It coincides with my overuse of the front brake, but I've been working on it. Other than the basics that stuck out above, I just need to ride more and get more comfortable at maintaining speed on the trail. Now let's take a look at my crashes, and maybe it'll help you avoid the same mistakes I made. I'm showing quite a lengthy clip here because it all starts with this start line. This is one of the biggest start lines that I've been on. Almost got the whole shot. Oh, I got the whole shot. Hearts are pumping. I'm just thrilled to be out here in front. And this is how it starts. And he got it on the inside, no big deal. Now this is another thing about practice laps. I heard that although they were allowing practice laps, this little like enduro section wasn't part of the practice lap. Another reason I don't do practice laps, sometimes not only do faster lines change during the race, some of the more intimidating sections are excluded from the practice laps, so why waste my time? But here we go. I hit this tire and it just threw me in a way that I wasn't expecting, and I didn't keep my weight on the pegs, which is probably why I just couldn't make it over. And then the pallet moved underneath my rear tire, just further compounding the issue of me not getting over. So I got a whole shot, then it went downhill from there.
Help me, yeah. Thanks, sorry.
I also learned from this race that just because there's an obstacle on the course apparently doesn't mean you necessarily have to hit that obstacle. You could tell it was the intent, but the border of that track went around those tires, and I saw a lot of people going around those tires just on the side mounted dirt, just avoiding them altogether. So yeah, just because it appears you're supposed to hit it, I guess you don't necessarily always have to hit it. Just to clarify, there were many racers going completely around the tires in later laps, even when no one else was blocking them like I just was. So now I'm just itching to get back in front. It's my fault I'm back there, so whatever. This is the most impatient I've probably ever been, and you'll see what it caused later on, and why I no longer really get impatient when I'm behind anyone. Pull back there. If I can't execute it safely, I'm not gonna push through it. Now, if I was just a little bit quicker here, I could have executed some clean passes, but I just wasn't quick enough. I thought the trail went straight. I really did. I saw that clearing, but it took a bend. Little mistake there. I was going to let that blue bike back ahead, but he slowed, appearing to let me out, so I didn't hesitate. Now, I give my bike a little bit of revs when I'm feeling it's lugging around a little too slow because I don't want the spark plug to get loaded up. So I give it a little rev every now and then, and I think I rev it a little too much here coming up. And I end up revving at somebody consequently in my own class. And he looks back, and I'm assuming he saw that he was in my own, that I was in his own class, and was like, and he pulled back over. So I can't really be upset. I shouldn't have confused him anyways by revving so high. But this little incident in the trees causes me to about $120 or more of damage just because I have to replace them Heritage front radiator shrouds, and you can only get the authentic ones from Husqvarna OEM, and they're not real cheap. Oh good, we're out of the trees. Why isn't it rolling? Oh, got a tree in my spokes. What a mess. But yes, what this incident taught me is just be patient. If you get stuck behind someone, who cares? Just be patient, time will come. If you have trouble getting around them, you ain't fast enough, you need to work on your passing. So, I ain't gonna hoot and holler generally about anything. And especially if you're in your own race class, you just gotta get faster if you're gonna pass. I'm so confused here. I just went under a ribbon. So I looked back, like I said, don't look back, and I got off track. It surprised me. Just crashed. Don't look back. Here's a good example of where I was using my front brake, where I probably should have been using my rear. Because my front washes out when I grab a little too much brake. Coming up here, I think I grab a little bit of front brake, taking the corner. Don't know why, but Watch that front brake. I saw some ruts hidden by the grass here. I thought I could manage and get around, but the ruts still kind of got me in the end. So for this one, to be honest, I don't know what happened. It's like somebody ripped the rug out from under me. This is also the incident where I decided to upgrade my helmet afterwards because I thought I might have a concussion and not be able to continue the race. But yeah, I just don't know what happened. I don't know if there was moisture on the root, moisture on the ground. I look at the video, and I really don't see what happened. My tire just kind of slipped out from under me. That also brings me to the point of my new hyper lenses. I noticed at the Hillbilly 100 miler, I started noticing roots on the ground were bleeding moisture onto the dirt. And that's really something I've never seen in any race, was roots bleeding out moisture into the ground. And I don't know if it's because that was my first race ever with hyper lenses. They talk about contrast and stuff. I don't know if the contrast in the lenses made the moisture pop, but maybe if I had, you know, hyper lenses, something that made moisture pop, maybe I would have seen it on those roots and been better prepared. But yeah, that was not expected at all there, and that's why I got that helmet that I said in the beginning of the video. And here's my last incident. This was at the 100 miler. This was my only incident at the 100 miler. I saw this rock, I saw the risk, but I thought the odds were in my favor. Thought my rear tire might get caught in that rock and kind of swing me over. I thought I could do it, but in the end the rock got me, and you know, just had to pick it back up and keep going. In closing, one last comment about passing in the race. I know I've said a few things about passing, pulling over, whatever during the race. In the end, you'll just have to use your best judgment and be respectful of other racers on the course. There is no one answer fits all scenarios. Generally, the faster riders will rev at you, but the slow riders have been known to rudely do it too. I've been revved at, let them pass, then they slow me down. Again, use your best judgment. Hopefully this video has helped you in some way. Harescramble racing is a fun activity to get into. You'll meet a lot of new people, get some new friends, probably discover some new places to ride, and get that thrill of the race. I hope to see you there. Check out this YouTube channel as I make an effort to post uncut video of every race I attend.